Hello and welcome everyone to our 2025 Because We Exist series. This series is about the causes that co-ops organize around and the effect of startup food co-ops and the power of what they do, how they impact their communities. And we're excited to have with us today Green Top Grocery. We're going to talk about where they're located and more about their organizing. But first, could I have our two speakers from Green Top introduce yourselves and your role at the co-op? And you can define that role how you want, as I know you have multiple past and present roles, some of you.
I'll start with that. My name is Mary O'Mara. I am currently the GM in training. I have had a lot of hats in the 4 years that I've been here. I started as a produce stalker. So yeah, the dream pathway, produce stalker, produce manager. I've done marketing, I've done point of sale, operations, cheese, meat, the whole lot of it. So I'm bringing a lot of experience into my GM training now, and I'm happy to be here.
It does absolutely sound like somebody was prepping you to be a GM.
I think so.
All the roles. Awesome. Thank you, Mary and Melanie.
I'm Melanie Shellito. I was, I guess, going chronologically, I was one of the founders of Green Top Grocery. I served on the steering committee and then the board for 8 years. I have been in and out of the organization as volunteer marketing, as paid marketing, and that is the role I am currently in. And we are training up my replacement marketing person right now as we speak. So, a whole wealth of historical knowledge.
And Melanie's not mentioning that she is a professional award-winning brand and marketing developer as her full-time job. She's currently the part-time marketing manager at Green Top, and they've been really lucky to have her. I know a lot of startups here know you and have actually leaned on some of your design work in their co-ops. So awesome to have you both. All right, we're gonna start learning a little bit about Green Top, where they are, who they are, some of the stats. And so Green Top Grocery is located in Bloomington, Illinois. I say that first because as another person from sister cities, we feel very strongly about this. But if you're looking at a map, this is Bloomington, Normal, Illinois.
Mhm.
We're really kind of one metro. And population of both the cities together, the metro area, is about 171,000. And so one of the things people always ask me when they're learning about a startup and their experience and where they're located is like, what kind of community is this? Is this a large city metro? Is this a rural community? Is this a college town? And I have a funny feeling I know how you'll answer that. How would you place yourselves in that? And then also just tell us a little bit about the nature of your community.
So yes, Bloomington Normal Twin City. We have two a large state college, Illinois State University, a small liberal arts college, Illinois Wesleyan, and a really excellent community college in Heartland Community. So we have what did we say, 30,000?
About 30,000 students.
Yeah, here. We are not particularly adjacent to any of those campuses. But we are on an easy bus route and we are on a beautiful bike walk trail that spans our entire community. So we did try and position ourselves for easier access. We are as central of central Illinois as you can get. We are surrounded by some of the most premier farmland in the United States, which means we are also surrounded by a lot of commodity crops, soybeans and corn. But we are very lucky to have a robust, small local farm environment as well. And so that is what we really try and tap into. Our community does tend to be a fairly well-educated, a lot of white-collar jobs. State Farm is centered here. Obviously, the university population, a couple other insurance behemoths. So we've got a lot of, like I say, white-collar, and it's a fairly affluent community overall. But we also have, what did you say, 17 grocery stores that run the gamut. I mean, most of them, of course, are big corporate chains.
Trust the GM to know exactly how many.
Oh, yeah. And, also we, for the longest time, and maybe still the highest per capita number of chain restaurants. So our community loves to eat. And they love things like chain restaurants. And so, we were really focused on capitalizing on local food and bringing that to this community.
Really, that's very comprehensive. Thank you for that. And I think I think what people don't realize, I think you guys learned through a process we're going to talk about over the years, is that you are very much located in a neighborhood, and very much a neighborhood store. So we'll talk about that in a minute because I think it's something you guys learned over time. Anything you want to throw in, Mary, about just the nature overall of the community you're serving?
I think Melanie hit most of the stuff. We are in a unique spot right now, this year where we're having lots of investment into our downtown spaces. So, agencies are showing interest in helping local. And then at the same time, I know a lot of local businesses, this has been an extremely hard year for them.
Mm.
So there's kind of this, both sides of the coin are happening. And yeah, we're just trying to pull folks in the community to come out and to support local.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
It might
Well,
also be worth mentioning, JQ, that
yeah.
we are on the border of our historic downtown and a historic neighborhood. As you mentioned, it was a food desert before we built. Obviously, now we're here. It's not so much, but we are on that edge of an area of our town that did suffer a lot of disinvestment, and that continues to be a challenge for them and for us in providing services. And we hope that as we continue to grow and get more stable, we can maybe have a bigger effect there.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that for those who don't know, those of you who aren't from long-established food co-ops, this is historically kind of where we've been located. I know there's a few lenders actually who are listening in, and we know this off the top of our head. Lenders know this, that food co-ops tend to locate in areas that have been disinvested but are just into that area, and they tend to straddle. That's actually historically where food co-ops have most located, and that is may potentially shifting a little in the last few years. But Green Top's pretty classic along that, that it is has kind of rerouting business into an area that has been disinvested and almost pulling some of the more invested areas money in by being kind of close to that edge. So, and we'll talk more about that here as we talk a little bit about your stage five. So, some organizing stats. Green Top Grocery incorporated in 2012. It's where we always start our counting for years of organizing. And they opened in 2017. So some people, there are plenty of reasons I know not to be, and we'll get into those, but a lot of people who are organizing startup food co-ops right now are looking at this number with jealousy because what we used to say when I first started working with FCI 10 years ago is that 3 to 7 years was how long it took to organize a food co-op. And even before, definitely COVID has changed that. I'll touch on that. But even before that, by the time we got to Green Top, it was starting to 5 to 7 was becoming 5 to 8 was becoming kind of the range. And then COVID has absolutely changed that in ways that we're not sure will actually continue. And that's just a topic for another day. But that 5 year number, man, not too many startups are seeing that anymore. So people are always very happy to see that. And I just real quickly, I'm sure it didn't feel fast to you, Melanie, as part of the people who were there doing the work, but anything you would attribute that speed to?
We had a very strong steering committee board with a lot of professionals who kind of really approached this with a really good mindset for business. I think it speaks to kind of the general affluence of our community. A $200 buy-in was not a big deal for a lot of people. So that certainly helped. And I am gonna I am gonna toot my own horn here. We had really solid messaging and brand materials that when people saw it, they assumed we were already open. So we really didn't have a phase where we looked like sort of a sketchy back of a napkin kind of idea. And that lent a lot of what I want to say security to people buying an ownership, wondering if indeed the store would ever materialize. So I am just going to lean on the importance of looking really good when you're out in the world, looking like a viable project.
Mhm.
And I would say that that's fair. Of course, spoken like a marketer, but we know that this is the place that we started to see that and really identify it was watching Green Tops rise. That professionalism of communication just subconsciously tells people, oh, the people who are organizing this, even if they're just community members, they kind of got it going on. They know what's
Mhm.
going on. It's amazing how it subconsciously communicates that. And startups now have picked up on that. A lot of them are following that track, making and have finding somebody who is an excellent visual communicator. And I do think people are seeing that impact. It helps create that sense of what I call legitimacy, which is hard when you're trying to sell a concept. to folks. And that doesn't going to work in every community. It's going to work differently. I appreciate you pointing to some of the, income and privilege that the community had. It definitely was a factor. And also, sometimes what's a factor for folks is there just aren't enough sites available in your area. Bloomington Normal had what I'd consider a moderate amount of potential sites. Some areas have, especially we see in the Northeast, real difficulty finding sites. And at this time, funding for startup food co-ops was definitely on the lending side easier to come by. So,
Yeah.
but what I want to lean into here is what stage of development Green Top Grocery is in. And on the right, you will see the Food Co-op Development Framework, which was released last year, and we have tools supporting that on the FCI website. And there is something real, a lot of this is just the original four, if you need the 4 and 3 frame model, which was called the 4 cornerstones and 3 stages model. It had been created off of the learnings we got from early stage third wave food co-ops and from River Valley. Like if you were here last night to watch River Valley session, we took what we learned there as a movement and we built kind of a model around it. And it kept expanding and changing, and people kept putting in like stage 2A and stage 3A, B, and C and stuff to make it work. And a lot of what you see on the right is just us readapting that and really spreading out into actual stages. But stage 5 is new and it's unique. And stage 5 is actually that we used to say, get the doors on the store. Many of you here have heard the phrase, I'm sure. Get the doors on the store. That's the goal. We're going to get the doors on the store. And then you just hand it over to the GM and magical things happen and it's all, you just sit back and take reports. And what we learned was if that was ever true, it certainly wasn't true after the likes of Green Top. Green Top actually marked a point in the third wave of startup food co-op development where we saw the increasing competition that established food co-ops were facing and that was narrowing their margins really hit startups. Green Top had been organizing in a way that everyone was like, this is the startup. Like they are knocking it all out. Their pro forma looks great. Their market study looks great. This is just gonna do this. Everybody felt extremely confident that this store was going to be one of the most successful opens that had been seen in a while, and it wasn't. And we'll touch on that in a moment, but nobody saw that coming. Anyone who claims they did I will call a liar. Nobody saw it coming at the time because they had done all the things we expected. And what we know now is that the changes in the competitive marketplace had finally really hit how we open startups. And Green Top got the luck of being one of the first ones to really be hit by that. So stage 5 was actually created from realizing that this kind of change had happened in the middle of the third wave, which is you can open the store, but then the store has to meet the plan. It has to actually, once it's open, can it be financially sustainable as planned, or do you need a new financial path so it can stay open? Are you meeting the vision of the co-op, which was a factor for Green Top? I wish we had more time to get into that today. Maybe another time we will come back around to that with y'all. But are you delivering the vision people thought you were going to deliver? Are they connecting with it? Are they finding it? And are you actually getting sustainable financial results? The co-op is not an established co-op. It is still a startup until it has delivered what it promised and can continue into the future with some confidence. So Green Top is in what we call stage 5, but I think very excitingly kind of in a position to maybe graduate from stage 5 soon. I know we don't have a ton of time, but if we could take a few minutes here. I know there were several runs out. Well, Melanie, if you could share with us, so you guys opened it and thought you're going to do great, and then I'm going to switch to Mary to talk to you about what the last couple of years have been like and how you guys have gotten so much progress to moving into established status. So, Melanie, if you give us a little bit of what happened when you opened
Yeah.
and how you guys reacted.
So we were projected to be, I think, an $8 million co-op within 8 years or something like
At
that,
maturity,
6 to 8
yep.
years, something like that. And so we had mapped out our whole, grand opening and all the things. And a couple of months before our opening, suddenly there's a Fresh Time Market that put up a big billboard and said, opening soon. And in fact, they opened the week prior to us when there wasn't time for us to pivot any harder. In fact, we bumped up our opening as much as we absolutely could to separate ourselves. We had no liquor, we had no snap, we had no wick set up, and we just said we got to get the doors open. Uh, and it was rough. Fresh Time pretty much sucked all the air out of the room. They, of course, could blanket the community. They gave away hundreds of bags of free groceries. There was pictures out the door of people. Well, we couldn't compete with that, and it was hard. They also called themselves Fresh Time Farmers Market, and so a lot of people thought that they were us. It was just the worst. And so right out the starting gate, we were pretty much 50% of sales. And our square footage, our staffing, our programming, everything was designed for sort of this, ultimate $8 million co-op, certainly 4 million to, first year. And we were half that, less than half that. Which affected, of course, our staffing. We had to right size our entire store, our offerings, staff. It was a rough first 6 months, and that continued for the first year at least.
Thank
Mhm.
you. And I think I wish we had more time to go into it, but I want to give some perspective. And 50% off was unheard of, especially for, I mean, like sometimes food co-ops were starting to miss that we thought we're going to do better by like 20%, but we could kind of point to where they didn't follow the plan or the market study or where the site had real problems. And so we kind of knew where that 20% came from. 50% was unheard of, especially for a well-positioned store like Green Top. And so I just want us to understand how challenging it was because it tells you a lot about what's happening now. And Mary, can you share a little bit? I know it's now been 8 years, and
Yeah.
but some incredible stuff has been happening under the leadership of the current team
Yep.
over the last few years. And could you kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, so the last 8 years were a bumpy road the whole way, really until this year. In 2024, we started laying the groundwork for we are here, we want to stay. Step one was us finding people who care, the passion, that they're going to sacrifice, and we are the folks who are going to do that. We're not going to let this co-op close without giving it everything that we have. That is when our interim general manager, Allison, she stepped down from the board. She has a full-time job elsewhere. She stepped down, became the interim general manager, and she really was the leader in that, setting the example of look at me, I'm sacrificing, I am not letting this go down without a fight. She was pivotal. That inspired a lot of us, and that got all of us on board. Those of us who already felt, yes, we understand what this business is and the great value of it. We're jumping on this with you. So our management team, their managers who had experience, who had been with the co-op, and we all buckled in. Then Melanie comes on, has this wonderful marketing and brand expertise, and she has been also one of those. I'm sacrificing. Let's do this. She's been down here working for an entire year with
Yeah,
us at this
yes.
point.
Mhm.
So just find your resources, find the people who care about you, and get together and make a plan and do the work. And that's what we've been doing. So in 2025, we've been focusing on connecting with our roots, getting back to our ends, like really simple business practices, making sure that we're following them. We're learning, we're growing, we're scaling, and we are including our local vendors in that whole process. We're including our community in that process, and putting that work and that emphasis on those things. Our sales have grown exponentially this year, and we're going to keep riding that wave. We're going to keep staying true to our mission and get the community what they want.
And I have to ask before we go on from the slide, 8 years of struggle, and there have definitely been, fits and starts of improving sales and then losing them again. This has been a huge growth and stable growth. You guys have attained. You actually were, as far as I understand, in the last year, one of the fastest growing food co-ops in the country by percentage in your eighth year of struggle. What was that
Yep.
percentage? What
I
percentage did you guys grow last year or over the
last
last year?
year Last year, I believe we grew somewhere in the 4% range.
And then
4%.
this year,
This year, we're when I pulled the report a couple weeks ago, it was 28% growth.
28% growth. For those of you who don't know food co-op operations yet, someday hopefully you'll have that privilege on the board of an open co-op. That is pretty unheard of unless you've recently opened a new store. So congratulations to all of you on that.
Thank you.
And a lot of that has been re-engaging the community in the values, which is where we're going to go next.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get going into this next slide. We're gonna go real quick through this one, but the co-op geeks always want to know this. So here are the quick stats. The store size is a total 9,300 square feet, with 6,500 of that being retail, meaning the customers can utilize. And that is a basically 2/3 percentage is retail, 1/3 back of house, classic percentage that works really well for most food co-ops. The product mix is predominantly natural and local, and you probably picked that up from listening to Mary and to Melanie talk about what they do. The local food sales are 22%, and this references back to what Melanie said. If you were on River Valley's presentation yesterday, they had 40% local. That is unusual in food co-ops because, and it's more common on the two coasts because there are more small farms caused by the way the land moves, right? In the hills and the valleys. Those of you from the Midwest know we have a lot of big flat land. And as Melanie said, some of the richest and flattest land. And so we have mega farms and extremely expensive land. And so small farms are actually uncommon. To get to 22% is real work. Where Green Top is located, and actually, in their case, a testament to one of their core values being local food. And their annual sales first year was 1.9 million. They have gotten that to 3.2 million after 8 years of real challenge and struggle, one of the hardest starts we've seen, and that we're getting close to doubling. We're getting there. So absolutely incredible. They had 36 staff at start. They had to downsize because the sales weren't what was expected, but they have rebuilt that staff to 25 dedicated staff who have good jobs and are getting training. So just want to take a moment to take a nod there.
Basically, our sales this year now are what we were supposed to be at opening. So just for a little context.
You guys are back at year one
We're
and
back
ready to
in.
go.
Yep.
All right. So what we're really here to celebrate, I thank you guys for sharing Green Top's story, and I hope you all got a picture of who Green Top is, especially our fellow startups. What we're here to celebrate, though, is that, okay, you heard this. They were struggling. They were wondering if they were going to stay open. They were raising additional funds. They were going through leadership like water sometimes, really having a hard time. And yet, what we're here to actually celebrate is how they have changed, transformed, and led their community around their ends, despite all of that. And so Green Top's ends are, and you can read them here, but for those of you who, like me, like to look at something but like to hear it out loud, they have four main ends, which if you're new to that ends word, think of it as core values for startups. This gets transitioned into something called ends. That's a whole nother session. The community is committed to cooperative values and directly supports the local economy with access to healthy food. The community understands the impact of their food choices, has access to healthy food, and has information on how to make the best food choices. Farmers and producers benefit from a thriving local agriculture economy. You're seeing that local piece here again. It shows up for every food co-op in their values, but some of us were focused differently on what we're trying to deliver. It isn't necessarily all about the farmers and the food system. Sometimes that local focus is very economic, job creation, and also just trying to get basic access. As Mary pointed out, there's over a dozen other grocery store options here. So that's not the focus here. The focus is on creating support for a certain kind of food system and awareness of food access. And then employees benefit from their employment practices, which serve as a model for the creation of good jobs everywhere. So those are their four main ends. And I asked every co-op to kind of delve into one or two of their specific ends and tell us more. And I want to get into those stories. So as much as I could ask questions here, I would love to hear more from you all. We're going to dive into specific ends and let you tell some stories for us of impact. So where did you guys choose to focus in?
So this one is our cooperative values directly supporting the local economy with access to healthy food. Interestingly, this year has been our revival and our reconnecting with our roots, all these pictures and these examples are within the last month that we've done. I am super, super proud of that. So in November, obviously, EBT and SNAP benefits, there was a snafu. And we did our piece of the puzzle, what we came up with, but not only us, the entire co-op industry. You could see them coming together, stores coming up with their own programs, collaborating with other stores, doing group programs, all the things. Just really speaks to why are we a co-op and the community that co-ops have together. We were all leaning on each other and all trying to do something to help EBT and SNAP recipients. So in November, we did our first, that I'm aware of, first in recent years, food drive, food bags. So we partnered with a local food bank, and we ordered all this product. We bagged it up, made it super easy for the customer, said this is $20. It was a whole heavy load of groceries. If you have the money, if you want to purchase this on their behalf, we are going to donate it to the food bank. And we sold 210 bags. They were $20 each. It was 1 ton of food. When
Wow.
we had the idea, our goal was to sell 40 bags in the month. And we sold 40 in the first, I believe, for the first 24 hours.
Wow.
Um, so, had we had more space, time, and capability to bring in 300 bags all at once, it seemed like the sky was the limit with these things. Our folks that shop here prioritize community and they wanted to do something to help. We were running out of these bags constantly. We were constantly reordering, regathering, all that stuff to try to get as much as we could out. But we are so proud of not only what the team accomplished getting this together, but our customers coming forward and coming out to help like that. It was just an amazing story. And the woman in the gray sweatshirt in the bottom picture, this was our first round of bags. Our second round, I let her know, this time we switched the items. We got oil and sugar and cake mix like you requested. And she almost started crying. She was so excited. Canned beans and fruits and the shelf stable stuff is so important, but she had put on the wish list these more pick up your soul, pick up your spirit items. And we were able to provide that. And she was just elated. It was just a wonderful experience. And so ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, people got their cake mixes, their sugar, all that stuff, along with all their food pantry staples.
And I
So
want to
that was a
point
huge
out,
success.
how Green Top has become a true, like established food co-ops do become, really has become a anchor and a center of community trust because people came to you and said, so how are we going to solve this?
Hmm.
And how can I, as a co-op member, help my neighbors through the co-op? They were looking for you guys for leadership. And you guys, so I just love that trust in the co-op that people came to you and said, okay, co-op, like you're my center, you're what we support you for, what we bought shares in the co-op for, what we created the co-op for
Hmm.
was to be this center of food justice and food work together as a community. And they turned to you like you were that and
Yep.
said, how can you guys help?
I will say that was probably one of the most gratifying things was that as soon as like the government shut down and like all of this information about SNAP, the emails started pouring in to marketing, phone calls. People were like, is Green Top going to do, you're going to do something, right? Like, how can we help? What can we do? Like they immediately turned to us and went, we know that this is where you can excel. Like help, and how can we be part of helping? And to me, there was probably a number of years where that would not have been people's default assumption about our store, honestly. And so I just felt great that people were reaching out, being like, spin something up, we'll be there, we'll
Hmm.
support it.
It's absolutely wonderful. And Natasha from the marketing manager from River Valley last night pointed out, I can't remember the exact words she used, so I apologize, Natasha, I'm using the wrong words, but she said that community organizing you're doing as a startup that we talk
Hmm.
about all the time, that doesn't stop when you become a store, but you become an organizing hub. You become a community building hub. It just takes a new life. And that's when you know a co-op is healthy, is that people are now again turning to you and saying, how are we going to organize together? The co-op's here for that. So, and this wasn't the first time. I do want to point out this amazing thing you guys did back in 2020 when things kind of hit the fan. This isn't new. Green Top really rose to the moment there as well, and was turned. And I think it might have been one of the first times the community realized how much they could turn to their co-op. Even though you guys were still struggling, the store wasn't necessarily fully performing the way people had hoped. People got the message because you guys, the way you guys responded. And I'm going to just take a minute for Melanie, if you can share a little bit about how you guys responded in 2020. I think it opened people's eyes to the value of your co-op.
Yeah, that's 100% true. We had a pretty robust network of local farmers, and if y'all probably remember that the grocery store shelves were empty when all the supply chains broke down, and a lot of our farmers are 15, 20 minutes away, and they were calling us and saying, we've got potatoes, we've got onions, we've got milk, we've got eggs, we've got. And so, these farmers were making 2 and 3 trips into the store every week, and our shelves remained stocked, and our deli team was able to keep making meals. And there was just this unbelievable. We went from something like in maybe 30 is like about 15,000. We were doing about 90,000 a month. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we doubled. And so, in our sales, and it was one of those things where we could really highlight the farmers showing up, and we had so many new faces that, well, they couldn't get toilet paper, they couldn't get baby formula, they couldn't get eggs, and we had all of that. And so if there's one thing I will say that was unfortunate is that the store, though still in crisis, we were unable to capitalize on all those new people who found us. And so once the other stores opened back up, they did drift away. Like, we had no means of maintaining that. But we still have shoppers who, there's one woman who said, when I couldn't get baby formula and I was in an absolute panic and there was no help, you guys had baby formula, and you have a lifetime shopper in me. So those are the kind of things that are like, oh man, that's incredible. We were there for you. So
that's the impact in action, right?
yeah.
I mean, and so, and that points to this. I want to ask you, Mary, about the West Bloomington Revitalization Project.
Yep.
One of the things also that food co-ops do is not just help the owners go turn and go, okay, how are we going to create impact together? Co-op, boss, but that you start to be a really trusted partner with other organizations that are doing great work in the community. So, can you tell us a little about how this came about and what this was?
Yeah, so West Bloomington Revitalization, a little background in their name, they're there to revitalize the west side of Bloomington. They're a wonderful organization, and they reached out in a bit of a, oh no, like please help immediately. They have a system to provide fresh and free produce to their recipients who have signed up for the program. I met with them on Wednesday, learned what the program was, learned what they wanted from us, and said, all right, when is this? And they said Friday. 2 days away. And I was like, oh boy. But I am not going to let this opportunity pass by me. I said, yeah, I'm going back to the store right now, and we're going to figure this out, and we are doing it. So we organized the buying, what food was available, all that stuff immediately within an hour of the meeting, sort of thing. And since then, they have been partnering with us every week. We supply them with bags of fresh produce that they are able to hand out for free to their community members who need it. It's a wonderful program. I'm so excited that we're partnering with them. They received a grant to do it. And so, yeah, we've been able to work together and then get out that fresh access to that food to the most underserved people in our community.
And I'm glad you underlined that, Mary. I'm going to highlight it for just a second and it came up in our Valley session too, is that so much of how we can serve our communities is because we're a grocery store, right? And so the co-op's not doing it for free. But it is doing something other grocery stores will not do. They won't take up that phone, much less go, how can we partner? Can we meet your timeline? Can we, how can we make this work for your community and affordable to you and sustain the co-op so we can be here to continue to serve the community? We don't always notice how much, because the grocery stores have never acted like community centers and resources. And suddenly you've got this business, and it has to be a business. But
Mhm.
absolutely, it's actually enhancing the business and strengthening the business to act as a
Yeah.
community resource. Both are happening.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, want to make sure we spend some time in this one. You guys also wanted to talk about this one. Who wants to kick this off?
Yeah, it's the same ends, but it's a little more about that. Like we really went deep on this, right? So we do have the Snap Match program, the link match. And I mean, I guess you can speak to a little more, like that program has really grown.
Hmm.
But I mean, for a grocery store that's not huge, that to me feels like a really impressive amount of vouchers of free food that goes out into the community.
Yeah, so if anyone's not available about or not aware of what SNAP Match is, anyone who has government assisted food payments, they get vouchers from us that match what they spend here up to a certain amount, and then they can buy fresh produce with those vouchers, and it will cover the whole cost. So we in 2025 shifted the way our SNAP Match works. It used to only be available for local food, and you could get up to 25 per day. We shifted it to be available to any fresh fruit and vegetables up to $10 per day. And that shift was critical because the Snap Match program has grown a lot since then. So we've done in our whole 8 years about $90,000 of matching, aka pseudo free produce that we've given out. Almost 25% of that was just 2025. So
Wow.
we're nearing $20,000 that we did this year, which means, yes, the program is growing exponentially and we're going to continue to grow it. We want people to use it. We want to be able to serve those people who need access to this. And I'm super excited to see where it can go because it's still growing. Word is still getting out to people. And people are so excited when they find out about it. It is an awesome program.
And we're the only retailer in town that has it.
Yeah. So it sets
Yes.
us apart.
And in
And
Green Top, to mention, just also these link match programs are now national, but they weren't at first. And Green Top Grocery, as far as we know,
We were a
we
beta
checked,
test for it.
yeah, they were literally the first grocery store in their state that did link match program. And that's not an unusual story amongst co-ops. This is another way our governments trust us to lead on this stuff. They know if they need to match food and community, find the co-op.
Yep,
And
yep.
this question did come up in the chat for you, Mary. You pretty much just answered it, saying, based on the way that you guys worked to meet the need last November, what's happening with your Snap Match? Do you see your link program continuing to be a bigger and bigger percentage of sales going forward?
yeah, absolutely. That's the hope. We are investing some marketing into it. And, the Snap Match program is so wonderful that they help us with that investment. Word of mouth is getting around because word of mouth is key. And like I said, almost 25% over the last 8 years of all the Snap Match we've done was just this year. So we're going to keep kicking and pushing the growth in that area.
Awesome. Well, Melanie, tell us about this Co-op Explorers thing. Now, those of you who are food co-op open store veterans know what this is, but a lot of folks don't, and I think that Green Top has really leaned into it. So I'd love to hear what your
Yeah,
thoughts on this.
won't spend a lot of time on it because I know it is something that a lot of co-ops do. It's an NCG program, more or less, like they have marketing materials, but it's up to every store to implement. We had this program when we first opened. It basically is for kids 12 and under. They can come in, they do sign up, but it's free, of course, and then they can choose a free piece of fresh fruit there at the store. What we had to stop that program, and it's been gone for years, purely a cost perspective. We were clawing to stay afloat, and wonderful programs like that, just weren't viable. When I sort of came back on board, I was like, I really, really want to bring this back for all the reasons, our ends, the whole thing. We are, like I say, in a food desert. We have, some nearby lower income housing. It's just Yeah. So what I did though, because money is still, we have to be very thoughtful.
Hmm.
I reached out to some community partners, potential community partners, and I explained to them that this is open to everyone. You don't have to be an owner, you don't have to pay for this, but it puts fresh fruit in the hands of kids. They get to choose it, so they kind of shop. And I got a great response. So we have two sort of benefactor partners that completely offset the cost of the fruit from Green Top's side. So for us, this is an absolute net win. The kids are so thrilled. We created a really cute little displayer. There's an
Hmm.
activity sheet each month. I'm sorry, I don't like NCG's artwork. And so I made my own Co-op Explorer cards and kind of kept that really fun brand going through all the stuff. So it is a very customized program to Green Top. We promote the partners and give them, a lot of shout outs and love. Yeah, so really proud of that partnership and how quickly, the families and kids gravitated back for this
Hmm.
program.
And two quick points I want to make on that is one, those startups here in the room who aren't open yet or have opened and are still working on getting to stability. I think it's a really good learning lesson that we've heard kind of consistently, and we're hearing it from Melanie, is these programs can find partners. You can be
Hmm.
already delivering this value along your that is so, tied up in who your co-op is and its values by finding partners. Partners will fund this work through the co-op once they realize like you can do all the distribution work and make the thing happen and you have the spot where kids can interact with you. We just need some funding. So, when it's tough sometimes to deliver these big programs we want to do and all the impact we want to have in our communities when we're just getting started after opening our co-ops or when we're going through struggle phases, when there's a will, there's a way, and partners are the way. The other thing I just want to point out is this is a program that was created by National Co-op Grocers. Melanie keeps saying NCG. So those of you who aren't from food
Oh,
co-op world,
sorry.
that's okay. A lot of us are food co-op geeks, but for those who aren't, National Co-op Grocers is a cooperative of food co-ops that all own NCG, like we all call it for short, and they have programs, purchasing contracts, and training. So I just want to make sure that people know who that is. I do want to take a moment and say the meat, veggie, and holiday pre-orders is a very specific delivery of one of your ends around connecting people to local farms and local food economy. And I
Hmm.
wondered if you can just take a minute to talk about that.
Yeah, so one, we're trying to come up with ways, what can we do this week to increase sales? What value can we provide to people? What's our plan? And identifying these special pre-orders where we provide people with this abundance. And most of the time, it is coming from a local farm or a local meat source, something like that. We also do our national brands. But yeah, that's providing that value. Let's make it local, let's make it abundant, and let's give them a little discount on it to get people excited and to get this in their hands, get seasonal eating out there. It has all these wonderful buzzwords and people love it. It really is a way for us to kind of celebrate the season. So, oh, spring's coming on, carrots, spinach, beets, all that stuff. Let's gather this abundance. Let's give these local people some extra money by purchasing more, and let's get this out to our community members. So they have loved it. It is super fun. It's like opening up a present. They know generally what they're going to get inside when it comes to the veggie ones, but because of how things are, something always changes, or we add in little surprises, and people just have a ton of fun with it. Average sales most of the time we're selling at least $2,000 worth of these pre-ordered items. So we've done holiday hams from Kilgis. We've done
Lamb.
lamb legs. Those legs were crazy that big. And then yeah, just the veggie boxes with the assortment. So that's collecting it from all sorts of different farms. It's kind of like a CSA, but you're getting the best of everyone. And that speaks to our ends of connecting people with local, healthy, natural foods. And the dollars and the increased sales speak for themselves there.
And I think it's a lovely, for those of you who are local foods focused, it's not just connecting and giving people an opportunity to find that local food for their holidays. It's educating them about what's accessible in the community. It's
Yep.
making it easy for them to make the choice. But I'd say third is it actually is also often, not always, an education process for the farmers about selling wholesale and selling direct to customers. And they learn a whole lot from the process as
Hmm.
well as you kind of play that middleman for them, but give them a real line of sight into how you're making decisions, why you're making decisions, what you can purchase, what you can't. And I wonder if you just want to just take a minute about the end of how this in fact affects those local producers and farms and the relationship you have with them.
Yeah, these are like huge opportunities to build the relationships, and your relationships with your vendors are immensely important. Promotion, all that sort of stuff that is very typical grocery store. It is an important piece of the puzzle to get people excited to come into your store. And when you have local, that's an exciting thing about your store. Promotions are exciting. You want to be able to combine those, and it can be hard because our local folks can't compete with the level that the national ones can. So a lot of times what you're able to do with local people really comes down to what is your relationship, what can you work out with them, and having this conversation and seeing what's feasible. It's super exciting, and they love sharing ideas with us. We love sharing ideas with them. We always go over a recap. I see we changed displays here. There's a photo of me, and the last bullet is our Oktoberfest event. So that photo of me with holding the brats in front of the Kilgus truck, that was our first time doing this local Oktoberfest brat event. And him and I, we're going back and forth. We're strategizing how we're going to buy because, oh gosh, I'm buying 200 brats that are bulk brats. So I can't sell them in the case because I don't have the packaging capability in house. So what happens if we run out? And so he gave me an extra, 100 that were prepackaged. And he's like, that way, you can sell them from the case if you don't need them. But if you do need them, you can break them open and sell them. And it's just all this working together, and we sold out. We sold out of all the brats. I should have gotten more. The community loved this event.
And I love the mutual solution building. Like again, as I
Yes,
was saying, like we're a lot of times the food co-op's in a role where we're helping our farms and our producers understand how to work wholesale. But he came right back also and was like, "I'm going to help you solve this. I'm going to teach you a little something about how
yep,
sales could work." And so
yep,
there's this mutuality and this growing learning from
yep.
all parties between the farm and the co-op grocery
Mm-hmm.
store.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, then we're on the email 2 days later, and I'm giving him a recap of this is what customers said, this was the vibe, this was how much we sold, thank you so much. And then now we're ready for next year.
Right. Definitely repeat that.
Yep, scale and grow. That's our mindset when you're trying to get your sales up. Take what you've learned, scale it, grow it. Yep.
Absolutely. And I want to point out that we're going to get into this slide real quick for a couple minutes, but the those pre-orders, if you can find the right local partner vendor who kind of knows how to, it has a little experience, knows how to work that with you. It
Mm-hmm.
is not for co-ops that are startups that are just open or are financially struggling, no major cash outlay is made beforehand. Although I don't want to underestimate the amount of staff skill and time it takes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, you've got a lot of skill and a lot of ability between Mary and Melanie to pull something like this together, but it's a way to leverage that, okay, we don't have a lot of cash, but we have a lot of staff skill around this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way to not make a big cash outlay while doing something that impacts your mission and brings people into the store. And local has been a massive focus for you guys all along. And I wonder if there's anything you want to, there's some stats here. Folks are welcome to read along. But Melanie, how are you guys focusing on that and continuing to manifest that even in the tough years?
Well, I mean, I think that does speak to the dedication of all of our buyers who are, I see the emails come in where they're fielding a new vendor in town or whatever. But, there was, a spell of time because here's what I'll say, and I'm not even on the operations side, but I know full well that working with all of these small, independent local farmers, it takes extra staff time. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is not nothing to take the handwritten receipt from the guy selling the raspberries, right? Like you do it for the love of the game. It's not streamlined. And so there were a number of years and under, various leadership. I think we've had 8 GMs in the 8 years we've been open, by the way. We might be at 9. So just to understand the revolving door of philosophies and priorities, there were periods where local was deemed too much of a hassle. We're really going to pare it down. Fewer vendors means more efficient, and that's true, but it really our core people that keep us afloat, they noticed when their local vendors were gone or a fraction of the food, and so when we would like say here the new stat right now, 125 plus local farmers and producers, that is a huge win because that was our peak. And then we were in a huge valley where it was, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe seasonally, like really the depths of abandoning our values. And it did not serve us well. Like it did not. Anything that we gained in efficiency, we lost in our community support and and I think the other stat that is to me is just so incredibly powerful. We know 4.5 million. We think it's a little bit more. Not all of our tracking was great, but consider that that's 4.5 million from a grocery store that is doing a fraction of the sales that we're supposed to be doing. And that is an incredible amount of impact, even with a struggling little store. And the effects that it had on those local farmers, we've got some quotes on a later page, but like it's real, the young man up there in the upper right, in the black
Sorry,
jacket.
I moved it to the
um,
quotes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's a new coffee vendor, and I mean new, 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 new. Like, I don't think he'd ever really done a sampling before.
First one on Saturday.
Yeah, and he was so thrilled to be talking to people and sampling his coffee. And I think he sold 8 bags like on the spot. And he was just like, I've never sold this many like in one fell swoop. Like, we're helping launch that young man's passion to people who understand why he's doing it and love it. And like that is everything, right?
And I
Mhm.
want to highlight just for 1 second that what Melanie said here is true, that deserting your values, your core values, will always fail. But you need to know what those are, right? For your store, it may be local farms and so is great and is important, but it's down the list. It's number 4. So it may not be the one that really like solidifies your place in the community or helps you when you're in a difficult situation. But it's important to know what are those values that people trust you for and will respond to. And in Green Top's case, they found when they really dug into this value, sales went up. When they deserted it, sales went down. And it is not
Mhm.
the only factor, but it has been a clear factor now that's happened twice.
Yep.
That they kind of came to understand what the community valued them for, and they reinvested there. And I know we're not going to have time to go into all of these quotes because I do want time for you each to have some personal reflections in a moment. But I do want to.
This one's a great one. Like if you're going to talk about one, this one's great because it affected not only the farmers, but also all of their full-time employees making a living wage. And if you know anything about the margins on small farms, a farm dedicated to paying a living wage to their staff is incredible. It was a big deal. And, not long after like this statement, there were floods. There were droughts. There was the loss of farm subsidies, which very few small farms are even eligible for. It was sort of a combination terrible storm for a lot of our small farms, and we lost a lot of small farms. It was rough, and for part of that time, it was also Green Top dropping their amount of sales, and so there's no way to know how much our buying or lack thereof affected it. It was, like I say, literally a perfect storm. But man, the stuff we do matters, and it matters for the longevity of some of these people doing hard, horrible work out there in farms. Dear Lord, to be able to be part of that.
Absolutely. And I think I love that. And in that particular farm, which is really good at quantifying it, like they saw it happen. But other co-ops can tell similar stories. If your co-op is focused really around making sure that local farms are seeing sales and getting connected to markets, a lot of us as the food co-ops that have had that experience can tell these stories of how lives have been transformed. So I do want to take a moment, though we only have a little bit of time left. I want you to each, if you can start thinking about this, you kind of knew this was coming, but how we touch our communities. Food co-ops transform, touch lives of the customers, of the owner members, of the staff, of the neighborhoods they serve, of the farmers, the vendors. So many, they change so much with, even though we're so little in the grand scheme of the dollars that are in the grocery industry. But I'd love to hear each of you, if you share one, I know of many, I'm sure you have, reflections on a story or an impact that has touched you personally as a cooperator that Green Top has had. And I will ask Mary to start.
Alrighty. this might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it is like a testament to who the co-op is, the co-op spirit, and who works here. Um, we have had multiple staff members take customers under their wing who need extra help.
Mhm.
Um, they're sick, disabled, whatever the condition may be. But going as far as going to their house on their way home from work to drop off groceries that they call and ask if they could pick up. I mean, investing time, love, and care while they're here at work, and then it also transcends out of work. And I've seen that with multiple staff members, with multiple customers, all the way to the point that some of them were put in nursing homes at this point in their life, and they're still going and visiting them in nursing homes. Um, the people that you get customer wise and employee wise, we're here for different reasons than just a conventional grocery store. We're here because of love and community and passion. And you see that every day, and it manifests in so many different ways. But in these examples, it's love of your neighbor and them serving them to the highest standard possible.
And it's not going to say that co-ops in any way are perfect employers or have the wherewithal to treat our staff financially always the way we'd like to. But I think it's a testament to how you can bring your whole self to work,
Hmm.
that people are building community while they're at work that then ex transcends their work life. And I think that's gorgeous. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Melanie, what would you like to share?
I feel like I should have like 8 years, 12 years worth of stories, but I'm blanking. But I will just say that this is not unrelated to Mary's thing, is that we've got some of our folks here on the team who for various reasons, life, transition of the store, they had left their role, gone out to other places, and when things here at the store got to the point where somebody said, I wonder if so and so would be interested in coming back. Like they were, and I don't know many people who would come back after they'd moved on to another position. And but the words from more than one of them were, that place fed my soul. And the place where I'm at now, it pays better, the hours are better, but it's just a job. And they came back to throw their lot in with this co-op who was like, we're doing it. We're doing it right this time. We would love to have you back on the team. And they set aside whatever they were doing now with their life and they came back and wanted to row this boat in the same direction as what it was headed and be part of that. And that's just incredible to me, that people are, their souls are fed by a job like this, which is arguably very hard and very time consuming. But they wanted to come back and do it because it matters that much.
Speaks to your guys' fourth end and a lot about what co-ops are about. I think that's gorgeous. Absolutely. Thank you both. And with that, I am going to wrap up our time today because I know I only have you all, and especially the Green Top folk who have to get back to running a store for so long. But I want to say thank you from the heart of our hearts to Mary and Melanie for being here, and to Green Top Grocery for taking the time to be part of the series and very truthfully sharing their story and the inspiration of what even a co-op that has had to work very hard to get back on their feet has been capable of doing. Thank you both so, so much.
And if you find yourself in Central Illinois, come see us.
Yep.
All right. Real quickly, I do want to say that sponsored this series because we exist is possible because our full circle co-ops. A full circle co-op is any established food co-op, open food co-op that is a donor and supporter of FCI, a food co-op initiatives work with our startups. At this point, it's up to 49 for 2025. We're looking to get that number to 60 before the end of the year. Co-ops who are part of our full circle co-op crew. And thank you guys for making this series possible. You have made it possible for us to tell these stories and share the power of cooperation. And that wasn't meant to be there. And if you don't know FCI, we just want to share real quick. We are a little tiny organization, but we are national and we support startup food co-ops or cooperative grocery stores or communities that are exploring the possibility. And we have all sorts of free resources and programs on our website. Please check them out. And so with that, we're going to stop